Hi everybody, how's it going? This is Eden Maybon of LightCycleAstrology.com. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Today we are getting into yet another aspect that is forming in the sky this week. What a powerful week it is for astrology in the sky. That is all leading to the full moon in Leo this weekend, and that is the Neptune and Jupiter in a Contra Antiscia. So don't worry, if you don't know what Antiscia is, we're going to get into the meaning of that in astrology today. And like I said before, this is just a powerful week of astrology that is leading to this big culminative moment. We have the culmination of the lunation cycle taking place alongside of some other very powerful aspects that are leading up to it. So I recommend, if you haven't seen yesterday's video, going back and watching that. It's on the Venus square to Mars. And then we also talked about the Sun square to Uranus the day before. So this will help you prepare for the coming energies this full moon, Saturday and Sunday as the weekend happens. All right, let's get into the Neptune-Jupiter Contra Antiscia. I'll go ahead and share the real-time clock here, and we can take a look at this aspect. So don't worry if you don't know what this is or you're unfamiliar. I'm going to take a look at this today, and let's get some annotation going, and we'll go through some of the basics of Antiscia, or Contra Antiscia as it's called. So first of all, Antiscia or Contra Antiscia is a form or like a variety of aspect that can only happen between the equinox points or the solstice points. So we have the point at which we have the exact solstice degree at the very end of Gemini and the very beginning of Cancer. We also have the same thing, a Antiscia that happens as defined by the very last degree of Sagittarius and the very beginning degree of Capricorn. Whenever you get a planet that is straddling either side of the exact equinox point or the exact solstice point, you get what's known as an Antiscia. So let me get rid of these circles here. So for instance, you'll notice that there is Neptune 23 degrees and 37 minutes of Pisces. So there is about 6 degrees and change to go before Neptune enters the sign of Aries and crosses over that equinox point. We also see that Jupiter is in Aries, has already crossed over the equinox point, and is now about 6 degrees advanced into the sign of Aries. 6 degrees and change. So the main thing here is you have to do some math with Antiscias, but the main idea is that you're going to have a planet that shares an equal distance away from the solstice point or the equinox point. So Neptune is about 6 degrees and change before the spring equinox point, and Jupiter is about 6 degrees and change past the equinox point. So that is what we get. Now, of course, you could have Antiscias form between two planets where there is a much wider separation. So you could have, let's say, maybe a few years back, you had Neptune at the very beginning of Pisces, and you had another planet that was traveling through the very end of Aries. That would have also been an Antiscia. So it's not about the number of degrees of distance that gives us the meaning. It's really just about the quality of light that both planets just so happen to share, because they're straddling a very pivotal moment where light and dark have a certain kind of exchange. So that is what the equinox points and the solstice points represent, is these very cardinal moments where there is a certain type of light and darkness exchange. That's the deeper meaning of an Antiscia. So for instance, Neptune is about 6 degrees of winter darkness before the coming light, where the sun overtakes the dark 6 months of the year of, that is the combination of two seasons, the season of fall and the season of winter. So in the fall and winter seasons, we have more darkness, more nighttime than we do daytime. But it is at that specific degree in the spring that the sun will be high enough in the sky to overcome the darkness. So there is more daylight and more light that is overcoming darkness within a 24-hour period of daytime and nighttime. So that gives you this moment of exchange where there is a move from a dominance of darkness into a dominance of light. And because these planets share that interesting quality of having one planet about 6 degrees before the end of the dominance of dark, and then we have the other planet on the other side of that, and it has about 6 degrees past the exchange where the dominance of light has now overtaken the darkness. So because they share these interesting degrees, and it's a little bit like a yin and yang kind of a thing where you have 6 degrees of darkness for Neptune that is more powerful than the remaining portion of light. And in Jupiter's case, Jupiter has about 6 degrees of light that has overcome a certain percentage of darkness. They share in the percentage of light and darkness, but either planet inverts those proportions. So Neptune will have more darkness than light. Jupiter will have more light than darkness, but the proportions of each of those different light and dark qualities are inverted, but similar. So what does all that mean? Well, hopefully if you're still with me and this all makes sense. Now, if it doesn't, please leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. I'll field questions for this particular aspect, because if you're unfamiliar with this, this is very easily confusing. And honestly, it's pretty hard to even talk about it and describe it. But that being said, what happens is that the quality of shared light, it's like the two planets form a kind of sympathy with one another. And that was thought of as some kind of non-physical form of conjunction, where there's it's almost like a metaphysical form of conjunction that is represented by them sharing the exact same proportions of light and darkness, if that makes sense. So what does that mean? It gives us a kind of secretive kind of quality to these types of aspects, where things happen or manifest in maybe a hidden or secretive way, or at least a way that is not so obvious, because we're talking about, you physically don't see these two planets together. Bodily, they're not together. They're not in a conjunction. But in terms of light and darkness, they are in a certain kind of way. So it's a below the radar, out of sight, out of mind kind of aspect that has that meaning behind it, or packs in the meaning of that quality to it. So oftentimes this is an aspect that a lot of astrologers don't even get into so much. A lot of the times because we don't notice them. Even the secretive foundation of the energy itself is hard to even spot in the chart when you're looking for them. But I look for them because they're very interesting opportunities to talk about an aspect that doesn't come along very often. It takes two planets traveling at just the right time, where one is on one side of the solstice and the one is on the exact opposite side of the solstice, and they're exactly in that alignment, or between two equinox points. So it doesn't happen that often. I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I would say on average. But that is, hopefully this is clear and makes sense to you on what that is. They share the same amount of light and darkness, but each planet will have the inverted or opposite domination of darkness to the other one's domination of light, is essentially what that is. Okay, now let's go ahead and I'm going to share the meanings for this that I've come up with. So I have 5 archetypal themes to watch for, given the fact that this is by nature a very secretive form of aspect. We're also dealing with one of the planets involved is Neptune, and as I'm sure everybody knows, is a planet that is mystical and sort of packed in mysticism and secrecy itself. In fact, Neptune is an invisible planet. So one of the significations that is often ascribed to Neptune is that Neptune represents archetypal things that are not visible. They don't manifest in a visible way. So things that are either internalized within us or things that we don't understand, we can't see. It's sort of invisible to our consciousness. So 5 themes to watch for this archetypal combination of Antiscia energy that is also playing into the full moon alongside the Venus square Mars and also the Sun square Uranus is theme number 1. We've got mystical beliefs budding internally that may suddenly burst into manifestation in the world. So while Neptune is a planet that is invisible, and it's like I just contradicted myself by theme number 1, where I say that Neptune is often invisible or doesn't manifest. Jupiter, on the other hand, in Aries, is very much a planet that will bring things into visibility, right? Jupiter is like boom in Aries. It's something that is just there all of a sudden. It's life springs into existence out of seemingly nowhere. I'm having this very profound experience right now where my wife is in the last couple of months of pregnancy, and I was talking about it with my son, and it's just, I remember this when he was born, that, this energy of life just coming into existence from somewhere else nobody knows, right? I mean, essentially we presume it's coming from the oneness of source and God, or however you imagine that realm to be. But, I told my son, I said, she's not in the world yet. I mean, we can see her in mom's belly here, but I mean, there is a time before where this person is simply not walking the earth. And then all of a sudden there's a time when this person is here walking the earth. So that is descriptive of Aries, because spring bursts forth into a new era of life after that equinox point has been crossed, that threshold has been crossed. So Jupiter has crossed that threshold and is very much expanding, right? The life that is bursting into new forms of manifestation. So mystical beliefs, right? Neptune in the mystical sign of Jupiter's sign of Pisces, bringing forth its mystical qualities, its hidden qualities, budding internally, that may suddenly also have this connection with things that also come into manifestation in the real world. But it has this very mystical and deep quality to it. So that's theme number 1 that I could see. Theme number 2, internally steaming, that pressurizes you in a way others are not aware of, brought on by some kind of fantasy, lust, grandeur, of fighting optimism. So we're pairing these 2 archetypal combinations of Neptune in Pisces and Jupiter in Aries, where we're taking the elements of Pisces and the element of Aries. We're taking those 2 elements and combining them together. We get the water of Pisces and the fire of Aries, and it's like it creates this steam. And I imagine that the steam kind of is internalizing, right? It has this Antiscia-like hidden dimension to it, and I think it could pressurize, people inside in such a way that we're not aware of it, or we don't understand it. There's a certain hidden dimension to it that isn't so apparent. Now, this could relate to things that are brought on by fantasy, right? Or lust, grandeurs of fighting optimism. We're just combining that optimistic fight that Jupiter has in the sign of Aries alongside that fantasy Neptune in Pisces kind of lusty, Venusian exalted way. We see Venus is exalted right now in Pisces. So you could see these energies co-mingling together and sort of creating like this steam that pressurizes. Okay, theme number 3 is a seething intensity you're not aware of or you don't understand that wants big things all at once. A mixture of nostalgia of the past and grand marches towards the future. So this is pretty similar to theme number 1, but it's like this seething intensity or pressure, and you're not maybe aware of it right away or initially, but it wants big things, right? Another way we could look at Jupiter in Aries. It wants big things, but with Neptune still hanging out in Pisces before the spring equinox, a sign that has to do with the nostalgia, a little bit that looks towards the past, right? That Jupiterian, everything was just grand and better in the past, in this optimistic way, in this nostalgic kind of way. But, there is the very, very soon to be coming march towards the future as well. So you can see this combination of this optimism and nostalgia mixing with, grand, futuristic, visionary hope for something coming, the light increasing. The light has overtaken the darkness of winter, that wants us to march forward and do battle or enter new, new trials and tribulations of life and karma. So I could see that being a theme that is another version of this energy. Okay, theme number 4, a moment of wanton indulgence that goes too far. Something like, parties, drinking, sex, hedonism, and dangerous things, etc. So yeah, imagine that this is just a moment where there's all this pent-up energy. We got the Venus square Mars with all this sexual tension between the lovers. We have the Sun square Uranus that is potentially doing very rebellious and out-of-the-box things. And then we have this very fantastical, sensual kind of energy of Neptune, who is limitless and eternal on one level, sort of represents the archetypal energies of like that limitless, that limitless beyond of eternity, that Neptune is way out there in the solar system, drinking in the energy of the cosmos, of the light of the stars and galaxies beyond, and sort of throwing that energy back towards us. So the most, like the realms of like pre-birth, when you're in the womb and just everything is unified in this very eternal way and very mystical, combining with Jupiter, who is, somebody that likes to party hardy in the sign of Aries. So combining those things, you could easily see things going a bit too far. The rebellious quality of the Sun square Uranus, the powerful tension of desire and lust between Venus and Mars, and now comes in the fantasy element that just goes, okay, if you're somebody that likes to have a good time, this is definitely a time where you could go a bit too far, drink too much, have some hedonistic wild sex thing happen with a total stranger or something, not judging, but I think we've all done those things before. This could be a moment where we do something like that. Hedonism and danger too, right? We're talking about Jupiter in a sign that is Mars ruled. So a certain amount of adventure and danger could come into it. Okay, and this leads us to, last but not least, this is theme 5 is fantasy and adventure. Thinking anything is possible, selling all you have to chase after some gold, finding God in the blood of the Lamb kind of symbolism. So I'm not trying to be, I'm not trying to Christianize this in some way, but the symbolism or mythology of the blood of the Lamb in the Christian religion, it's just harder to find a better example than that for this kind of energy. On both sides of the equinox, you have Neptune, which is a planet that has boundary issues, right? And in a sign of Pisces, and Jupiter likes to just expand forever and ever and ever, and can be very much a place that looks for salvation. They said that Christ was said to be a Pisces, right? And what did Christ do? Well, Christ was a solar Messiah, the Son of God that comes down, and he sacrifices himself for the sins of the entire species, right? He is the ultimate sacrificial lamb. So you could definitely get a sense of Neptune in Pisces, looking for salvation or representing salvation. And then you have Jupiter, which is the ruler of Pisces, in a war sign, Aries. So you get the blood, right? That the blood that's shed on the field of the conquest of missionaries to new lands, or the blood that is taken from witches that are burned at the stake. You know, the blood of the lamb, right? That kind of energy of those two, like religiosity, moral, spiritual, Jupiter kind of law and justice and order and religion and belief and faith and hope. All of those things mixing with this very Neptune sacrificing, boundaryless, ultimate unity kind of coming together. And you get a sense of like the blood of the lamb is just a phrase that really, for me, encapsulates the kind of energy. So there you have it. Those are my 5 themes for this particular aspectual energy that is also combining with the other energies that is forming this week with the other planets. That is all leading us up to the full moon. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Any reflections you have on the coming of the full moon and the culmination this month. I'd love to hear them. It's always really great to get those. And please like, share, and subscribe on the channel if you haven't already. I'll be back again doing a video just on the full moon itself in Leo and get some archetypal guidance on that particular type of energy. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'll be back again soon. Have a great day and a good week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.